please.
Okay. Hi everybody and welcome to of the Family Education and Justice Committee. I would remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I've agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. For any members of the public watching, please note that all the public committee reports, including details of specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. Do we have any apologies or substitutes?
Thank you, Convener. Apologies from Councillor Brian Boyd today, no substitute. We've also got apologies from the Church Rep, Mrs Christine Hay. She might be joining the meeting about 2:30. And remaining, apologies. Members that are joining remotely are Councillors Brays, Cruikshanks, Gall, Stewart, Wan, and Whiteside, and we've also got Teacher Rep Mike Callaghan joining remotely. All remaining members are in the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest or statements of transparency? Not seeing any. That's great. Thank you. So the first items are the minutes of the previous meeting. Are they approved? Agreed. And the next one is the minutes from the staffing subcommittee. Are they agreed? Thank you. Great. We've got a really busy agenda this afternoon with lots of updates from lots of different people, which is great. We have some special guests to start us off as well. So really pleased to have Scarlett and Cameron here with us today, because we've had representation from our secondary groups and primary groups, and now we've got our early learning groups. So I'm going to hand over to Julia Gardner, who's the early years manager, to share the presentation on a special award that they have just received.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to share our Early Years Reading Schools journey with you today. As you said, I'm Julia Gardner, Early Years Manager, and I am delighted to be joined by Cameron from Forfar ELC, who brought along their Early Years Reading Schools Award, and they've also brought BookBug, who helps them to enjoy their stories, songs and rhymes with their parents during BookBug sessions. I'm also joined by Kiana Piper, and who's the senior EYP at Forfar ELC, and Emma Patterson, who's the manager of Hayeshead Playgroup, and they're both keen to tell you about the work, this work and the impact it's had on the children, families and staff in their settings. Sorry, I really should be sharing my presentation as well. So the Scottish Book Trust Reading is a national programme that aims to build and embed a joy of reading for children, staff and their families. Families are supported to understand the importance of reading together and to build their confidence in sharing books with their children. Planned opportunities such as BookBug sessions in the settings help parents and carers develop positive reading habits at home. Creating a joyful reading culture across the setting and wider community is important because research proves that reading for pleasure can improve attainment across the curriculum, support well-being and develop skills such as critical thinking, creativity, empathy and resilience. In 2023, 7 settings in Angus were selected to be part of an exciting project, the first settings in Scotland to trial the new Reading Schools Award for early years. In 2025-26, in a further expansion to the pilot project, Angus was selected as one of only 3 local authorities with 15 settings participating. We selected a range of local authority and partner provider settings from each locality. The development work for the award aligns closely with our early years priority to improve language and communication outcomes for all children. It also provided an opportunity for participating settings to collaborate and learn from one another. Each setting has celebrated its Reading Schools journey in different ways, involving children and families throughout. By working together, children, practitioners and families have helped create meaningful and enjoyable reading experiences both in the setting and at home. Kiana and Emma are going to share something of their journeys with you now. Emma, you told me how the work books in Hazlehead Playgroup and how some small changes made a big difference to children looking at books. Can you tell us what you did?
Yep, so we were quite literacy rich within our environment, and child-centred learning was our approach. An example of some of the small changes that we made was children were coming into playgroup showing us they were interested in trains, and train drivers were the current theme. So we would select a story in line with that. So we had the Magic Train Ride story and looked at imaginative ways of sharing that. We decided with the children to take them down to the local train station in Arbroath, where we read the story to them in the community. The staff within the train station came and joined in with the children. It was a really exciting experience for the children. Along with that, they then take that back, became interested in words that they're seeing around them. They all got their own train ticket, which caused lots of excitement coming back to playgroup. So it's just bringing the stories alive and just showing the children that, you know, and getting them interested in the stories and excited. It was amazing.
Super, thank you. You also had a particular story that you wanted to share with us today about an individual child and how this work helped her to engage particularly with books and stories.
Yeah, so we had a little girl that was with us, and she had additional support needs with no language and found it really difficult to concentrate or stick on anything. She would flit around from space to space. She did have a love of outdoors and loved to climb. So we decided to go through her interests of outside, and we built a reading shed in the garden next to a climbing area. So through that interest, she began to become interested in books, and then books became her transition object. So she would take the books along to every other play space that she wanted to join into. And you would, by the end of the term, you would see that she was sitting looking at books alone and just calm and just interested in books, which she had never been before. So that was lovely.
Thank you. That's a really encouraging story. Thanks. Kiana, you developed a lending library for children and parents in Forfar ELCC. Can you tell us briefly how this was successful?
Yeah, so the children have greatly benefited from our lending library, which it's a thing we've done that encourages them to choose books and take them home to share with their families. This has given the children the opportunities to choose books that interest them or want to revisit familiar stories and share them with their parents and carers. We've seen a growing enjoyment and a love of books, with the children are more excited to share stories, practitioners and friends. We also introduced a review sheet that goes home with the lending library, which can spark conversations with their families that bring back into us, which has provided a really good link with us and our home lives.
Thank you, Kiana. We're now happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Duvan.
Thanks, convener. Just trying to get rid of the frog. Do the parents come into the ELCC and learn to be with the children, or is it just through the books going home and that?
So we originally started it off as we would work with the children and let them choose it, but we wanted to get the parents more involved, so we did move it to our main foyer. So when the children are getting collected or dropped off, the parents will then spend that time with the children to choose the books and sign them out and bring them back. So it's really nice, yeah.
I did want to congratulate you on becoming one of 3 nationally. That is a fantastic thing to do. And what's it, 15 schools, nurseries are involved? That's tremendous.
15 plus 7, so big number already. The 7 who started in 23-24 are already up for re-accreditation as well.
Councillor.
Thanks, convener. Absolutely great seeing you on the wee boy and the wee girl. Absolutely fantastic. You mentioned in your talk there when you went to the station in Arbroath, the wee girl who had special needs. Are there many, what's the sort of proportion throughout? I mean, are there many children in that category? And do you manage to deal with them and bring them on?
Yeah, I mean, it differs from year to year, and all the children's needs differ. We kind of learn along with the children that we receive every single year, but we do have good links with the local authority, and we do get support to come and teach us their skills of how to support the children best, and we do share the success stories that we do have. But yeah, it just differs from year to year. It never stays the same.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, convener, and thank you very much for coming in today. It's lovely, and hello, Scarlett and Cameron. It's lovely to see you. But it's so cute. I wanted to pick up on the parents' engagement in that. And have you had any feedback that this initiative has generated more reading at home at bedtime, for example, with their children, and books that may be out with the set books? Because I know when I was a child, I couldn't stay in books. I just went through them so quickly, and I loved bedtime reading. So just wondered. Thanks.
So at the beginning of the process, I did do a questionnaire and I sent it out to all the parents. And then when I come to the end to submitting all my evidence, I re-questionnared them, and the difference in the number was quite extraordinary, actually, to see that they've picked up reading the books and the conversations just throughout the day. You see it at home a lot, like them talking about their favourite characters or retelling stories in the back of a car and stuff. So yeah, I think it's definitely rewarding, yeah. That's okay.
Another point just to add to that, so I would say across all the settings, parents have become more involved as a result, and in many settings it's not only children's books that are part of that library, but it's books for the parents as well that are part of that library, so it's even encouraging parents to do more reading also.
Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, convener, and thanks for the presentation. It's a hugely encouraging and positive story, so thanks for that, and thanks to Scarlett and Cameron for coming along. It's really nice to see you today. I was just wondering, I mean, it's obviously such a good news story. Are we planning to roll this out to all our early learning venues?
We would love to. It's done in conjunction with Scottish Book Trust, and they're involved in the accreditation process, but we already have new settings signed up. In fact, I think we've had an oversubscription and had to be quite selective for this year. But obviously we were part of a pilot for Scotland, and Scottish Book Trust would like that to also roll out wider within Scotland.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. We normally go to comments now. Has anyone got any comments they want to add? Oh, sorry, Councillor Speed.
Sorry, yeah, it was just one last wee question, and it was just picking up on what you were saying about in the kind of book corners. There's also adult books for parent carers. I just wondered, does that also give you the opportunity to perhaps pick up on any difficulties they have with, their literacy and reading? Are you there? And then I guess my next bit would be, are you able to then signpost from there for help if needed?
I'm not too sure that has happened. However, I know that within all our settings, our staff are very attuned not just to the children but to their families, and should it happen within a setting, one of the members of our team supports the settings as part of this journey, and I know that they would have the confidence to ask, and it would definitely be something that should it arise, we would do something and signpost and support in as many ways as we could.
Okay, thank you. So we normally go to comments just now, but I think that's everyone said. I'm going to say congratulations to everybody. It was wonderful to be able to go and see some of the children in the settings before the break or the recess over the summer. And I'm really pleased that you could make it along today to share some of your experiences, because I think it's important to share that how it impacted not just on the children involved, but also the staff and parents as well. So thank you very much for coming along today, and it was great to see you all. And thank you very much to Scarlett and Cameron as well. And I think we'll take just a break for a couple of minutes while you head out, if that's okay. Thank you. Okay, everyone, welcome back. So the next item on the agenda is Angus School Inspection Report. We've got a few inspection reports to go through this afternoon, and the first one is for Tannadice Primary School and Nursery Class, and Neil Loudon is going to introduce this.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. A very good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's had a restful summer. Agenda item 5 is asking members to consider the positive inspection report for Tannadice Primary School, published by HMIE in June of this year. The summary of the report is in Appendix 1, and it lists, as normal, the strengths and areas for improvement identified by the inspection team. Sarah Burke, the head teacher, has joined us in the chamber today, and Sarah will be happy to take any questions on the report.
Okay, thank you. Got a few hands up. Go to Councillor Proctor.
Thanks very much, Convener. I'd just like to congratulate you on a very good report for Tannadice, near where I live in Greenmuir. So it's actually good to see everybody doing well. A couple of questions that I have. Really, the report highlights the wide range of opportunities children have that are supported by community partners. Can you tell me more about this? And secondly, what are the approaches you have introduced to help children effectively manage and discuss their emotions and their behaviour?
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Proctor, for your question. We've got a number of positive partnerships that we've developed, particularly over the last year. Our TPSA, which is our parent council, they're very supportive of all our initiatives and all of the things that we're trying to do for our learners. We have worked really hard with our Active Schools coordinator as well to ensure that we're given lots of different sporting opportunities. And Alba Explorers are another company that we've worked well with on outdoor learning approaches too. Our TPSA have helped us with fundraising to give musical opportunities across the school, so developing a wide range of skills for all of our learners. We've also worked really well with the Angus ASN inclusion team as well to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our learners. We have looked at assemblies, we've looked at developing the young workforce, so we've invited in lots of local businesses, our farming community as well because of our rural situation, and we've had parents come in and work with the classes on their topics. We've also had local musicians, Katie Nichol came, which was very inspiring for our children. We had Hayley Duff, who was actually a former pupil of mine in P4. She's a curling Olympian. So again, that was really different. So we're trying to get as many different opportunities as we possibly can. We go out on educational visits as well as inviting people into the school. Our parents as well are very involved. One of our parents is a science lecturer. So again, that was a very inspiring session that he came in to do with our children, and it was great to hear the feedback from our learners. So we really are, as well as teaching all of the other curriculum subjects, literacy and numeracy, which is high on our agenda, we are trying to give them that widespread of experiences to make sure that they all go to positive destinations and we're inspiring all of our learners. And then the second part of your question, again, that links into us working with our agencies. With the emotions and ensuring that we are meeting the needs of all of our learners, we've introduced a mental health and wellbeing programme called My Happy Mind this year, and whereby the children learn about how their brains work. So because they're learning about their brains in a practical sense, they're then aware of how we can develop coping skills in order to help each of our children. So we've worked hard on that. We've worked with the NHS nurses as well on decider skills. So lots of cognitive behaviour approaches to ensure that we are getting it right for all of our children. The ASN inclusion team work closely with us as well, and we've developed learner participation profiles for our children, which will go with them throughout their primary education and then on to secondary, making sure that all of the practitioners that work with these children know what their strengths are, their barriers to learning, and how we can best meet those. But I've got to really give a lot of praise to all of our council workers, educational psychology, our OT service, speech and language, our early years team as well. It's a team effort, and our families as well are pertinent to all of that. And we've got lots of leaders across our school as well. So we've got our health heroes. So as well as a lead practitioner that develops the skills across the school, we've also got our health heroes, which are our children, and they lead it as well across the school.
Thanks very much. I mean, I think you just illustrated there that Tannadice, a real community school, and I know one of my friends who's a farmer has actually gone in and he's talked to the children. So, you know, it really is great community effort, and well done.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure who was first. Councillor Devine.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Sarah. That was really great. I don't know if I've got any more questions for you, actually. But no, I did. I just wondered, because I was looking at the improvement points that they'd given you, I just wondered how you're managing to involve the children in the PEF funding, and also how are you finding it using the tool, the tracking tool across the curriculum, because that was one of the things they asked you to try and do, not just literacy and numeracy, but across. Thank you.
So as a council, Angus Council have incorporated all of the curricular areas into the tool, and that's partly why it's great that the Education Service come along to our feedback sessions. So that's going to improve that across all of the schools. Previous to that, though, we have progression pathways in all of our subject areas, so it's not that we weren't actually able to see where the children were. So children were still progressing and we were still able to track it like this, but we will have a digital tool now that Anne Collins has helped us to develop to make sure all schools are now tracking those. And tracking skills, we're now involving our learners, so they're going to actually be coming up with a format where they will also track their meta skills across the school as well and across the years. And parents are going to come into our learning cafes, which the family team are going to help us run this year. And so they will be coming in and learning more about the skills, more about Magna Maths, which all schools across the council are incorporating this year as well. So we're very excited about that. And that's going to be working with our cluster colleagues too, to increase attainment in maths across the council. And would you mind repeating the first part of your question?
Yeah, it was just how are you thinking of involving the children in PEF funding decisions?
So we evaluated the My Happy Mind after year one, so the decision was taken to continue with that because of the results that we had seen, and we have seen, we're maximising learning time for all of our children in class now. We've got evidence-based approaches which are running in our CAM cave, which the children actually named, and that's teaching the children these skills in a small-scale environment in order to be able to incorporate it into the classroom. So that they can be in the classroom as much as possible. And so we've done that. The other thing with PEF, we've managed to get 6 funded places on the Angus Fields Forest Schools outdoor learning programme as well at Crombie Park. So that has left us the rest of that money to go towards the other interventions that our children need, which are identified through their learner participation profiles. So we'll be able to use that money really wisely. It is a small pot of money, so we do need to use it wisely. And we've also recently had good news. We have secured funding from the Aberruthick Ski Trust. That's £3,000, and that's going to go towards digital technology to help with Magna Maths across the school, and also our learning community cafes, helping to teach digital skills to our wider community as well.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Convener, and thank you very much for coming along today. And what a great report, actually. I'm really impressed. And I'm particularly impressed and interested in the emotional intelligence aspect of the work that you're doing in the school and creating that environment, and the links with nature and outdoor exploration. And I'm just looking at the areas for improvement. I'm actually finding it hard to see what more you could do, but is there anything else that you could maybe give us that is directly related to that point, please, because it's a mystery. Thank you.
I think with a lot of our work, it is going to be continuation, because it's been year one of some of our emotional wellbeing programmes, we'll be continuing that. But with the curriculum improvement cycle coming, we're going to be working with our colleagues nationally and locally to ensure that we manage to embed the changes in a planned manner as well. Skills development, the inspectors were able to identify that we are already teaching those skills, the children are learning those skills. It's just again having a tool to show that we are doing that. So we've already got plans in place and working with other colleagues across the cluster as well to develop that. But really, and I would like to really give thanks to all of the colleagues in my school as well as the cluster, because they are inspirational practitioners, and I think that's really why our children are doing so well, because the teachers and the staff make the difference. And if you ever want to come to Tannadice and meet the staff, then you'll actually see you know, they really deserve a lot of merit because they put their heart and soul into it and go above and beyond for our learners. So I'd like to really take this opportunity to thank all of the staff at Tannadice and Angus Council colleagues as well.
Thank you. Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well done on such an excellent report, and it has been interesting hearing about all the things that you've been doing. Clearly a lot of hard work. You know, like you've just said, in terms of the teaching staff and the wider workforce that helps support, there is quite a gulf between kind of the school role and the numbers between, for example, Tannadice and other schools. Do you think that also contributes to kind of better learning outcomes?
I've worked in a range of schools, so I've worked in really big schools, and I've always had high expectations of all staff and pupils and setting standards. So I would just say that I always set those standards in all schools that I work in, no matter what size they are. And all schools have their, you know, they just have to play on their strengths, you know. So as we're a rural community, I think that we've got lots of strengths because we do really work well with all of our partners there. But we also work with bigger schools as well in our cluster. We do a lot of work across the cluster. So I do think it's just all schools can be outstanding, no matter if you're a small school or a big school, but you just need to make sure that everyone is consistent. You've all got high standards, you've got high expectations of all your children, because you really do just need to find out what their strengths are, where their barriers are, and then you're able to work with all of your children to make sure that they get the best education possible.
Thank you. Thanks. Councillor Beattie.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, you've actually touched on a couple of points I was going to ask about. The mental maths strategy and also the outdoor learning. But so could you maybe sort of tell us a bit more about how you're going to develop the creative art skills through the outdoor learning?
Yes, so we've actually done a bit more fundraising as well. So our plans are hopefully to employ an art specialist as well. So because we don't have specialists in music and some of the arts now, that's our plan arts-wise. Although recently 2 of our parents who are artists have actually offered to come in to do workshops with the children, which is great because that means that I can use that money elsewhere. Music-wise, we actually invested in the Charanga music programme last year. So as you know, I mean, teachers are very skilled, but they can't be skilled in all aspects. So we had music training last year, so all of our practitioners have been trained. Our support staff also have access to all of the resources. And we also, again, worked with some of our cluster schools. We invited other schools in. And then our parents helped us to organise a Tannadash, which was a 5K event, and we raised over £2,000. So we invested in musical instruments, we set up a music room, paid for the training for all of our staff, and that's for the next 3 years, so it's a sustainable programme. So all of our staff are able to teach music now, and also the children can access this at home, so that's the next step this year. The children will be given an account and they can actually compose their own music, so I'm really excited about that. PE-wise, I'm very fortunate. All of our staff at Tannadice are really sporty. Outside of school, they do triathlons, running events, all sorts. So again, they're really inspirational, and they all run after-school clubs or lunchtime clubs. And Magnus Moncrief, who's the Active Schools Coordinator for the Webster's Cluster, is excellent. The opportunities that we have in the Kerry cluster are really amazing. You know, I've never seen anything like it. It's really amazing. The Highland Games, we've got running, anything you can possibly think of, Magnus will do. We've had Pickleball Scotland in this year, netball, so we've got students running clubs as well. So sporting wise, you know, that's what we're doing with that. And then drama is embedded into the curriculum, so that's often related to their topics and things. But I would say my staff are really good at sourcing experts in these areas so that they can either transfer their skills to the staff or come in and do workshops and things. So, for example, we had Chief Chebby, African drumming and storytelling. We've had all sorts of visitors in. And so, yeah, we're just very fortunate with all of our staff. And I've got to say, our clerical loves getting involved in everything we do at Tannadice, and she'll often say to me, what about this? And so we just go for it.
Thanks very much, that was great.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions, any comments? I think that's it. Thank you so much. You've answered quite a lot of questions there, and it was really great to hear more about all of the work going on. Yeah, good luck. Send our congratulations on to the staff.
Thank you. Thank you for all your questions, councillors.
So it's up to us just to agree the recommendations on this item on the agenda. Are they agreed? Thank you. The next item is the Arbroath Academy for the progress report, and this is going to be introduced by Neil Loudon.
Yeah, thank you. Agenda item 6 asks members to note the positive further progress report for Arbroath Academy and also the final letter issued by HMIE in May of this year. This draws to a conclusion the external scrutiny process, and I am pleased with the progress that the school has made under the leadership of Mrs Mohammed, who has joined us in the chamber to take any final questions on the scrutiny of HMIE from members.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, it was good to see this this further update, and I noticed that the letter from HMIE talks about continuing progress in this regard, and rather than mentor, what was in train to support that further progress. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I think over the past few years we have developed a real culture of collaboration within the school. Staff are fully committed to working collaboratively both within their subject areas and across subject areas. We've also been fortunate in having external funding through being part of the Accelerate programme. So we've had a lot of input in terms of staff training, which means that almost all of our staff are trained in, for example, project-based learning. So we continue to use our self-evaluation and the self-evaluation through the local authority to identify the next steps. So, for example, last year we were working on feedback as part of our school improvement cycle. This year we're continuing that work on feedback, but with a particular focus on questioning to make sure that our young people are fully able to express what they are learning, how they're able to make progress, etc.
Thank you. So we had Councillor Beattie next.
Okay, thank you very much again, Convener. So the report shows that there was a notable improvement in the number of awards achieved by pupils with additional support needs between 24 and 25. Are we seeing this being sustained in 25-26, or is it too early to say yet?
We're absolutely seeing it being sustained. We have had a further increase this session in over 90 people by the end of S4 have achieved 5 or more qualifications at level 3. This year we have had our best qualifications for some of our young people with more significant additional support needs, so we're absolutely continuing to build on that progress and we'll continue to do so.
That's great news.
It's just to clarify, Councillor Beattie, obviously we don't report that at the moment because we tend to wait for an update in September, and then the final Directorate scorecard is presented later in the year. But yes, I think you can tell by Mrs Mohammed that she's quietly confident and pleased that that improvement has been sustained.
Councillor Devine.
Thanks. It was great to read that there's increased ambition across the school. Clearly that is paying off, and it's obviously welcome. Sometimes more difficult to ensure that the aspiration for children's learning is within the parents themselves. Are you finding this is improving and that people are to do that more?
We're trying to continue to develop more innovative ways of engaging with our parents, such as having open events that parents can come in and can visit lessons, for example, in S1 and S2. We also have what we call learner-led conferences in what will be this year S1 to S3, where the young people take ownership of presenting their learning across the year to their parents, and they prepare to talk about their key highlights of the year, their development needs, etc. And they really lead those conversations with their parents. And we have seen an increase in parents coming in because I think they really value seeing their young people take the ownership and the accountability for their learning, and their teachers, or their crew leads as we call them, are really just there on the side. The young people are fully in control of those events. So that's just a couple of examples of things that we've been doing that's helped us to increase our parental engagement.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener, and thanks and congratulations to Mrs Mohammed for the clear progress that's been made. It's really good to see. I don't want to detract from that in the slightest, and my question's maybe more for Mr Loudon. I'm just wondering what sort of reflection and learning has been taken from the position that the school was in initially from the first inspection report, just perhaps to ensure it doesn't happen in future with any other schools.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Whiteside. Happy to. You'll see from the letter that was published that the original letter in June 2023 and before that, I think it's fair to say that whilst the school was not in the position that we would wanted it to have been in at all during the initial inspection, I think Mrs Mohammed would agree with that, we were in a period where we were referring to recovery and accelerated progress. It was the very beginning of 2023. We were coming out the back of the pandemic, and I think, in fairness, the school has gone through transformation from that original inspection to this point. From my point of view, and Layla Martin, who's sitting next to Mrs Mohammed at the moment, we have, and we've brought to committee, multiple versions of our framework for improvement for all of our schools. Because having that framework for improvement as our consistent guiding document allows us to make sure that there's high quality, and actually the head teacher at Tannadice touched on this, high quality learning, teaching and assessment and improved outcomes, whether you are in our smallest rural school through to our biggest secondary school. And that framework has been in place for the last 4 years, and I do believe that that is the bedrock of making sure that we are seeing these sustained improvements now in all of our I'm going to say settings, because I would include our early learning and childcare settings in that as well, right through to our positive destinations at the end of the senior phase.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much for coming along today. It is pleasing to see the journey, the progress that you've made, considering it has been quite a journey. So yeah, thank you and well done to everyone. It was just to pick up on the point that was made with regards to additional support needs. It is pleasing to see, I guess, that that movement between the kind of resource base that you have and people accessing mainstream, of course when it's right for that individual. Does that then help, I guess, free up support for learning staff to then perhaps be able to support those that are not in school to be able to attend, or actually do the support for learning staff kind of move with those pupils either into mainstream or kind of through that blended approach?
Thank you, Councillor. Obviously, we deploy our staff in a variety of ways, and there's a support need, as you correctly identify, across the whole school and for some of our young people who struggle to attend school. So we have young people who are supported. Almost all our young people are in the mainstream to a certain degree or another. We have a very small group of young people who are additional support needs hub, so to speak, caters to. We also have something called Academy Futures, where we have additional support needs staff deployed there to, again, bridge that gap between home and school to ensure all our young people are achieving the best that they can through a more bespoke model. And we have used some of our PEF funding in the past couple of years to have additional staff that we bring in to, again, support young people to the best of our ability across the whole school.
Okay, thank you. Has anyone got any comments? Councillor Wan.
Thank you, Convener. I would just like to thank Mrs Mohammed for the I think it's important that we recognise the progress that's been made at Arbroath Academy. When we look back to the original inspection in 23, the school was assessed as weak in raising attainment and achievement, with clear concerns around learning and teaching, the use of the data and culture and aspiration. What is encouraging in this report is that the improvement isn't simply being described in general terms, there's evidence behind it. So there's still work to do, I believe, but you've said today that that's even improved this year again, although we don't get sight of that till later. So I would just like to thank you for all the hard work to you and your staff and everybody at the school, and keep going. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those comments.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Speed?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would just echo Councillor Wan's sentiments there. And really just to say as well, you know, I have been into the school a number of times over the last couple of years or so, and have been able to see firsthand, you know, the work and the difference that is being made. You know, I've seen a variety of different projects and activities from the beginning right through to kind of the completion. So yeah, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I will just end it there on, yeah, well done on that. And I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time and being with us at that committee. You've answered a number of questions, and you've been here before as well to discuss things. And I think that has supported and hopefully supported the work that's been going on too. So yeah, so thank you for that. So our task is to just, for recommendations, is to note the update report and the letter that's been published. Is that agreed? Thank you. And the next item on the agenda, item number 7, is Arbroath High School further progress report. And Neil Loudon is going to introduce this one.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. Very similar to agenda item 6. Asking members to note the positive further progress report for Arbroath High School this time, and the final letter issued by HMIE in May of this year. Again, drawing to a conclusion the external scrutiny process that's been led by Ms Thompson, and I'm pleased again with the progress that has been made by the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got any questions? Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener. Thanks very much for coming to visit us today. How far has the school managed to create such strong consistency across the classrooms sort of improvement journey?
Thank you very much. We have made a lot of progress in our learning, teaching and assessment progress across the school, and the consistency has been ensured by a number of approaches. I think first of all, we have made learning teaching a whole school improvement priority since I started at the school all the way through, and that has carried through. We've done a number of whole school initiatives to make sure that learning and teaching remains first and foremost a priority for the school. So for example, we appointed a principal teacher who was overseeing pedagogy across the school, and that member of staff then led a number of initiatives across the school from that point of view. We have put in place a huge classroom observation programme so that every member of staff was observed on a regular basis and got some feedback. The purpose behind that being positive feedback and conversations around how to get better, how to move on to the next thing, and not using it as a sort of a negative interaction. We have introduced a push for teachers to reflect on their own progress and try to get better and better, and we have the mantra that we can always get better at what we do in school. So we have professional learning plans that each member of staff does over the course of the year, and we get them to do 4 of those a year, so every term identifying an aspect of their practice that they want to get better at, and then doing some educational reading around what experts say about that, enacting that in the classroom, and then reflecting on that, and then moving on over the course of the session. We have whole school priorities, and then we have faculty priorities as well, recognising that not every faculty is in the same place in the school. We have teaching and learning as a standing item on every department meeting agenda, so that conversations are constantly taking place around teaching and learning in the school. And then we've brought in professional learning on a whole school basis for staff as well. So our Monday night meetings are not operational meetings, they are focused on pedagogy and ensuring that staff are getting better and better at what they do. We have brought in some external providers to talk about old techniques that perhaps could be refreshed and revived, and then we've also used the local authority colleagues as well to come in and share the benefit of their experience with our classroom teachers. I think I would say that as a whole school staff we have absolutely embraced the opportunity to get better. At the end of the day, everyone is a classroom teacher and everyone is in the job because they thoroughly enjoy teaching young people, and everyone has been welcoming on the opportunity to improve their practice.
Thank you very much for that full answer, and well done on what you've progress you've made. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Convener, and thank you very much for those responses, really helpful. As someone who was bullied at school, the stats on bullying popped up on the on-call incidents. There's a reduction, 39% compared with the previous session, but there's no context in that paper, so I just wondered if you could give me some of the numbers around that. That would be helpful around, how many bullying incidents there might have been. It's just a percentage. Even if it's after the meeting, that's absolutely fine. And in terms of how you manage that and interrelations with the pupils to address that, potentially any sort of restorative justice, if you like, it would be good to get a bit more on how you deal with that in the school. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm happy to obviously share the bullying details with you after the meeting, if that's okay. With regards to bullying in school, I think that unfortunately bullying is part and parcel of being in it. It happens, and we have to acknowledge the fact that it happens. We have put the emphasis on responding to incidents as and when they arise, and being very thorough in how we deal with that, but also setting the expectation through our school values that bullying is not tolerated at Arbroath High School. We have a number of assemblies that take place across the course of the year. We have a number of systems and supports in school for young people to report incidents, and we are really encouraging our parents that if the young person comes home and is discussing things that they aren't comfortable with, then we ask the parents to get in contact with us as well. We have a number of anonymous ways to report things in school, like the PCS teacher would pick up. We've also got counselling services in school. We've got an excellent relationship with our CLD, Community Learning Development team in school as well. And we just really focus on making sure that young people are aware of the expectations that we have for them around positive interactions, and making sure that the school is a respectful place and our values are echoed across the way that staff are treating young people, that young people are treating staff.
Thank you. Did you want to comment?
No, sorry.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Whiteside.
convener, and thanks for the report and congratulations on the progress. It's really positive. I'm really pleased to see the focus on helping people stay safe and feel safe in school, and I note that mobile phone use has been restricted. I'm just wondering if there was any consideration given to further restricting that. I see that the mobile phones are available during break times.
Yes, I mean, we introduced a new mobile phone. We worked in consultation with our young people and our parents as well around what their preferences would be for a mobile phone policy, and taking into account the feedback that we got from our parents and our young people, we put in place a policy that we felt was appropriate for the school at the time. I'm absolutely not ruling anything out at the moment. What we've got in place at the moment seems to be quite, it seems to be helping. Feedback from parents, feedback from teachers and feedback from young people themselves have said that they feel safer in lessons. I am aware that other schools in the local authority and neighbouring authorities, and actually across in Edinburgh as well, have a slightly more stringent mobile phone policy around like the bags that you put your phones in and things. I'm waiting to see, I think, on the success that the other schools have had. It's a sizable investment financially, and I'm waiting to see what success other schools have potentially before changing. We've also only had the policy in place for under a calendar year, so I'd quite like to let it run and get the feedback once it's been through a school session.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, you're going to go.
Yes, just to build on the answer, we are aware that there's a consultation due, with responses due by middle of November, so we'll be planning to make a response to that. But there is strengthened guidance, and I would, well, not strengthened guidance, but updated non-statutory guidance on mobile phones in schools that was published in June 2026. So all of our schools will look at that over the course of the year. But I think what Ms Thompson has rightly pointed out is that we've acknowledged that one size necessarily won't fit all, and that the consultation that happens in individual schools with young people and parents and the buy-in in individual schools is really important. But that's not to say that once a policy is in place you don't revisit it and refine it. It needs to be revisited and refined, as research tells us to do as well, and certainly taking into account any updated non-statutory guidance. And be very interesting to see the results on the consultation on restricting mobile phones in Scotland schools when it's published, I would think early 2027.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying it was really positive to see the progress that's been made, and I was just wondering what support from the central team has been most helpful in securing this progress.
Thank you. I think that the support that the school has been offered from the central team has been immense. I'm very grateful to the support, so I'll just take my chance to say thank you very much to the team here. We've had a number of offers of support that we've taken in place, and all have been helpful, but I'll summarise some of the most helpful for your questions. So first of all, after the first inspection report, we took the advice from HMI and we looked to upskill our principal teachers as our middle leadership of the school. The analogy being the PTs are the engine room of the school that drive forward improvement. So we really focused on upskilling our principal teachers to lead learning and teaching and lead improvement in their own faculty. So we were able to tap into the offer from the central team, and I had a number of officers come into the school to work with my principal teachers on a group, but also on a one-to-one basis as well. So that was really, really helpful, and I think that when HMI came back for the revisit, the lead inspector, Gooch Dillon, had said that he was absolutely amazed at the transformation from the principal teachers from the first group that he met that time, and he couldn't believe the short period of time that had passed and the progress and development that they had made. So that was really reassuring to hear. We have also asked for the central team to help support us with our what we thought had improved and the work that we had done in our self-evaluation. So we had a VSE in place both before the follow-up inspection and then before the final report and sign-off. And that was really helpful because that allowed a proper scrutiny of what we had done, the improvements that we had made, and that got evidence. So that was really, really helpful as well. And that was really the basis for the reports that we submitted to HMIE, was on the basis of what the local authority had said that they had observed in our school. And then finally, the support that we were offered from Debbie Gallagher as well as our SAC officer has been absolutely invaluable, both in sort of pre-inspection and working with us in preparing the evidence and making sure that we put our best foot forward and that we were presenting the best evidence that we had, and helping us to filter through some of the vast amounts of evidence that you produce over the course of a session. And then Debbie's support actually during the inspection, working with the inspection team. I have to say I was very, very, very grateful to everything that she had offered us as well.
Thank you. And Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you, and well done as well on the improvements being made. I had kind of two questions. One was in terms of the bullying and the reduction, and the other was the new mobile phone policy. And so I guess I was just going to kind of ask if you think that although the new mobile phone policy in itself wouldn't alone be why there's that pleasing reduction in the bullying statistics, but do you think it's contributing? Do you think it does help? Because I guess we are aware in terms of like kind of cyber online bullying through use of devices. Do you think there is a bit of a connection, or it is making a bit of a difference in the school day?
Thank you. I absolutely agree that the reduction in mobile phone use in school has been really beneficial for the young people. I think in well-being and mental health as well. Some of the conversations that we had with young people, it was that the phones provided an opportunity where they might then get bullied, so it's almost sort of stopped things from developing, because they feel safer in class, they feel able to ask questions, they feel able to enjoy their learning without the moment being recorded or pictured or whatever. So yes, I absolutely say that the mobile phones, particularly restrictions in classrooms, have helped young people feel that they can relax into their lessons and be a bit less vigilant about what's going on.
Very quick, thanks, convener. I think, yeah, that's great and really pleasing. Like anything, things are always complex. There's always another side to every story, and I just wondered for those pupils that maybe have been victim and have been bullied. I guess that new policy perhaps created a little bit of anxiety for those pupils that maybe have relied on their phone to text parents or to, is that something that you've had to put supports in place to kind of just take pupils through that new no phone policy, just to provide reassurance that, yeah, although they can't, communicate, there's staff on site, if you like. Has that been a thing as well?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Obviously, we are very aware that parents and young people have a really important connection, especially when things maybe aren't going quite as well. Although we have a policy in place, as Mr. Loudon had said, it's not an absolute ever within school and within policies, and for a variety of reasons there are young people that have amendments to that policy. So we have a pass for a variety of reasons. So for example, medical, so young people who are potentially diabetic need access to their phones. So there are always exceptions to every rule, and for every single young person the priority is the young person and not the policy. So every single time we have a young person, we look at that young person, what are the needs for that young person. We have a number of things in place. I think sometimes the mobile phone exacerbated the problem with the constant communication as well, and so that has allowed set times for communication, different ways to communicate, but absolutely never taking a young person away from their support network.
Councillor Wan, I saw you had your hand up. I didn't know if you had a comment or a question.
Yeah, sorry, I put my hand back down. It was a similar question to Melissa's.
Okay, thanks. So Councillor Bell.
It's actually a follow-up to a point you made in your response to Councillor Speed, but it's for Neil, sorry. In terms of a policy of something like meta glasses in classrooms, are we planning on having a blanket ban on those? I have huge concerns around use in the classroom, and I already know lecturers in secondary, like college level, who are absolutely forbidding their use in the classroom. So I just wondered if we'd considered that. Thanks.
So it's not something that we've considered at the moment. I think, first of all, I would probably want to go to head teacher colleagues in secondary and work out what the issues would be around them, and if there are any current issues there, because they would be best placed to give me some data around that. In terms of the mobile phones or the meta glasses, I think I would strip it back to, this is about getting it right for every child and young person in Angus and each and individual part of Angus. And I would never want to rule out saying, well, in Angus, we entirely support a blanket ban on meta glasses, because if that's what we need for the children and young people of Angus, I think that's what I'd be bringing to committee, whether it was an operational decision, but I'd probably want you to actually know that you were part of it. Equally, I've already said it'd be interesting to see the findings of the latest consultation around the mobile phones, and whether it can then be, Councillor Bell, all rolled up into one. I think we would make that decision probably, certainly during this school session, but it'd be into the new year. But I'll commit to following up on the meta glasses. It's not something that's crossed my emails, it's not something that's crossed my desk, but happy to commit a follow up on that, particularly with our secondary head teacher colleagues.
I just want to thank Councillor Bell for that question on that, because I think it's something that's, and not just obviously that one, it's versions of things that will come after that as well. So yeah, it's something that we'll pick up and discuss further. Is there any further questions or comments? Councillor Speed?
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment again, just to say that I always appreciate the invite to the prize given at the end of term. And again, this year was no exception, and just, being really impressed by, the pupils and their dedication to their learning, as well as kind of those extra curricular activities. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Speed, for those comments, and I'd echo those and take them back, please, for the school. And again, thank you for coming along, for answering the questions, because I think it's really important, and it's really valuable for us to be able to ask those questions to you, even though I know that it's quite a difficult thing to come into here to committee. But I think it's an important thing, and really helps everyone understand situations and be able to have a conversation about difficult topics. So so thank you very much. Thank you. So just going to agree the recommendations, which again are to note, and is that agreed? Agreed. I'm going to go on to agenda item 8 just now, which is the summary of Care Inspectorate inspection of Rowan House. And Kirsty Lee is going to introduce this report. Spread out.
Takes a minute. Okay, right. John. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, members. You'll be aware that we, as a social work department, routinely bring our Care Inspectorate inspection findings to committee for assurance purposes. I'm pleased to report that Rowan House, part of our Brambles estate, 5, which is very good, with no requirements or areas for improvement. The report highlights the warm, nurturing, trauma-informed support provided to young people and reflects the dedication of our staff in delivering high-quality care. I'd ask you to note the findings of the report and the commitment of our staff and leaders as they carry out our corporate parenting duties to a very high standard. Happy to take questions. We have Claire and Peter here also.
Thank you. Councillor Bell?
Thank you very much. Great report. I'm hoping this isn't going to be a difficult question for you. I just know that reflective practice is such a key part of social work, and I guess the very process of having an inspection makes you consider, what could we be doing better? And there are no improvements in this, but are there things that have occurred to you that could be done differently, better, or gaps that have been identified that you yourselves want to address? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose for us, although there's not the detail contained within this inspection report, the report content is constrained by the care inspectorate's word limit on their inspection reports. We get very detailed findings and very detailed verbal feedback. There were some minor points that they felt that we could continue to develop. They're not anything that are of any concern, otherwise there would be requirements or areas of improvement put in place. One of the bits was around continuing to embed our trauma-informed approaches and trauma-responsive approaches within our whole residential service. We've looked at the dyadic developmental psychotherapy approach and are taking a tiered approach to how we roll that out with staff. We are around about 4 years into that now, 3.5, 4 years into that. So we're quite far into it. We're getting into the real intensive training for some staff now. So we're continuing to use that as a method, and we'll continue to roll that out. Alongside that is a commitment to working with our clinical psychologist who provides the team clinical consultation. They needs of children very much vary depending on what children you have in, where they are, what their life experiences are at any given point. That can be quite a changeable picture for the staff team. So the psychotherapy input is really, really helpful. The clinical psychology input, sorry, is really helpful to support with that. That then means that we can really tailor the approaches to the children's individual needs. Alongside that, we're looking at how we make sure we standardise our quality improvement processes and having standard formats across all of our residential houses as well. So there are lots of bits that we're doing in the background. So just because there's no areas of improvement or requirements noted for this, it doesn't mean to say we're taking our foot off the gas.
Thank you. Is there any other? Councillor Beattie?
Not so much a question, more of a comment. Are we okay with that just now?
Yeah, just double check. Is there any other questions? I think we're okay to move on to comments.
Okay, well, no, thanks very much. I think on, I think it's page 45.5.2, young people benefits where they felt loved, part of the family. Can't get better than that. Well done.
Councillor Proctor?
I congratulate you once again for producing an excellent report and to the benefit of all the people who benefit from it. And it's a great credit to yourselves and your staff, and well done. Keep it up.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll just finish off by saying well done. I think it's good, and I think it's maybe a challenge when you've reached that standard then to keep that going. So yeah, would hope to continue to see that, and please take it back to everybody as well. Just the well done on that. And our task is to consider the areas of strength identified and note the grade of 5. Very good. So is that agreed by everyone? Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is a summary of care inspection of Strathmore Outreach Service, and Kirsty Lee is also introducing this report.
Thank you. So a further inspection report for your consideration. It's the first for this service since it was launched in 2024, and this is our outreach service for children with disabilities. So again, pleased to report the service achieved a grading of 5, which is very good. No requirements or recommendations. And again, the inspection recognised the quality of relationships, strong partnership working, and the positive outcomes being achieved for children and also for their whole families. So again, pleased to take any questions via Claire and Peter.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yep, Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener. In paragraph 5.3, it says that young people are actively involved in decisions. How do you manage to achieve that? You know, get the young people involved. You know, to get them enthused and be part of the you know what's going on.
In all honesty, it's the relationships that the staff team have with the young people really makes a difference to that. A lot of our young people have difficulty communicating who are involved with this service. We need to have a staff team that are very in tune to their communication styles. Some of that's verbal, some of that's non-verbal, but we need to be very attuned to that, and the staff team are
They're involved in decision making, service planning, from very small things like what kind of pizza do you want, right up to, you know, who we're going to recruit, those kind of decisions. So yeah, they're very much involved in all levels and all layers, and yeah, we try and include within that.
Any further questions? Any comments? Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. Yet again, this is a super report to the Strathmore Centre, this time the outreach service. You know, we've come to expect this of you. They're consistently good reports, and it just shows how very dedicated your staff are. It's absolutely wonderful. For the life of me, I can't imagine why they haven't given you a 6, but I'm told that if you get a 6, then it's even harder to keep there. So 5 will have to do. Well done.
Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I didn't have any questions, but it certainly was without question that, yeah, this was going to be a good report. I know the team work hard, they build those relationships, and this piece of work is just so valuable for the families and young people within our community. So, yeah, well done.
Yeah, finally, just to add, echo what everyone else has said, and on the well done on that. And I think, yeah, the standards are extremely high and the expectations are extremely high. And again, this has been and topics and inspection reports in the past that have come to committee as well. And it's great to have you here to answer those questions as we have, because going a little bit deeper and beyond the report is important, but also to recognise how good the work is in this area. So thank you very much. And so again, our recommendations on this one are to consider the areas of strength identified and note the grade of 5, very good, with no requirements notified. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Item number 10 on the agenda is the annual Chief Social Work Officer report from 25 to 26, and Kirsty Lee is going to introduce this one.
Thank you. A bit of a chunkier report before you today. So I'm pleased to table my annual Chief Social Work Officer report. You know from previous years the purpose of this report is to provide you as members with professional assurance regarding the quality, effectiveness, governance and delivery of our statutory social work services right across the board. There are a number of significant strengths highlighted within my report. So during the year we have continued to strengthen our social work governance arrangements, improved child protection planning and decision making, progress the implementation of the promise, Bairnshoes, deliver more local care options for children and young people. We've been able to reduce delayed discharge, strengthen our adult protection arrangements and enhance mental health and wellbeing supports. For justice services, we have successfully implemented the Caledonian system. And we've also made positive progress with the workforce in terms of sustainability through increased training and development opportunities and some growth noted in social work traineeships and our retention rates also. At the same time though, this report is clear about the considerable challenges facing social work services. Demand and complexity continues to increase across both children and adult services. We face pressures associated with the shortage of foster carers, suitable care placements and elements of pressures across the wider social care workforce. There are challenges in housing which impact on our care experienced young people, hospital discharge and community-based supports. Financial pressures remain significant, particularly in relation to external placements and the commissioning of those and complex care packages. The report reminds us, though, that behind every performance measure is a child, adult or family whose life is significantly affected by the support they receive. And therefore, the report places an emphasis on rights-based, relationship-based practice and on learning from the lived experiences of those people who continue to rely on our services in Angus. I'd like to place on record my thanks and appreciation to our social workers, mental health officers, social care staff, managers, foster carers, kinship carers. I say this every year and I really struggle to find a way to make it more authentic than I can, but we genuinely cannot deliver these services without the commitment of our workforce. Even during times where we are seeing an upturn in recruitment and retention, we know that staff are continually working over the hours that they are allocated. They work creatively, they bring their whole self to work, which is incredibly challenging and impacts their own personal life. But I say really faithfully thank you to the workforce, because we cannot deliver services without them. While I'm on thanks, I'll take the opportunity to thank our Adult Services Professional Social Work Lead, John Cooper, as he leaves Angus to take up a new leadership post in the third sector. John is on the call today and will take any questions along with Jill, our Chief Officer. John's focus on values, his demonstration of compassionate leadership and commitment to value in the whole of the social work workforce has supported me hugely in this role over the last couple of years. So we wish John. Overall, the report gives assurance that statutory social work functions continue to be delivered effectively with robust governance, whilst also recognising the challenges that lie ahead. So happy to take any questions, and I have colleagues also on the call who can support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, we've got quite a few hands up. I think Councillor Bell might have been first with this one.
Thanks very much, Convener. If you don't mind, I'm going to sneak in 2 wee questions. Kirsty, thanks for the report, and I completely endorse your thanks and comments to our staff who do an amazing job, and I've been on both sides of the fence here, so I know that. So just firstly, very quickly, perhaps on page 21, where you mention housing pressures, given that we've wrapped housing into your remit, is that relationship helping you to build a picture of what we need to be doing to support care experienced young people? And also, and it might well be John on this, so I'm not letting you off scot-free, John, as you depart, you turncoat, you, around the Beacon. Just broadly, it's an average of 5 visits to the Beacon for the 806 individuals. And I just wondered, is that reflective of how we thought it would work, or is it bringing up ideas or solutions around gaps in existing services that need to be addressed to give those people some continuity? Thank you.
I'll take the first part about housing and care experienced young people. I would really like to report that by having a shared director, we've managed to solve those issues, but unfortunately not. I think, though, what it does give us is an opportunity to strengthen what are already good partnership arrangements. The challenges that come for care experienced young people in terms of housing are not because we're not aligned and we're not speaking to each other, it's because of the pressure on the physical resource. How we can match young people who have a range of different needs into communities so that they're safely housed and that they can safely integrate into a community. So there are a number of pressures. However, in saying that, we have found some small wins in being a part of the same directorate around our approach to no recourse to public funds, for example, and how social work approach some of our more vulnerable families in that sense, and certainly through our work with Horizon. As the housing service move into their new model, there is an opportunity and a much greater focus on our more vulnerable people. So it's not just our care leaver population, it's also the prison population as well, people coming out early release or being released from prison and things as well. So we're seeing some opportunities, but I can't say it's transformational in itself, because it is really, we've had a very good history of partnership working in this space previously. And I'll hand to John, if we're content with that response, on the Beacon, please, John.
Thank you, Kirsty, and thank you, Councillor Bell, for the question. So, yeah, I think in terms of the Beacon, we should be incredibly proud of the resource within Angus that we have there, and I think the numbers do tell a story. For me, and for the time I've spent there, and I've been there on a few occasions, spoken to staff, we have to remember that this is a crisis intervention centre, so many individuals who attend have often long and enduring mental health challenges, and for individuals to come back again and again, I think there's 2 ways of looking at that. One way is, well, what is happening? Are there gaps? However, my response would be that actually it's seen as a safe space, a space that's open, obviously out with standard hours, and a staff group where what we hear is that relationships are built and formed and trust is there and really central to the work that is undertaken within the Beacon. So for individuals to feel that they can go back again, meet with potentially that same staff member not having to tell their story again, being able to be listened, respected, and have that support at that point in time, I think is really the model that we hoped the Beacon would be. So I think for those who feel that they have nowhere else to go and who value that relational approach, it's absolutely doing what it should, and it is keeping individuals out of those more statutory involvements, which again is such a positive message as far as the Beacon goes. So Jill, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but hopefully that helps with that response, Councillor Bell. Thank you.
I'm happy just to add to that. I think in each individual who does attend the Beacon on more than one occasion as well. So I think it's really difficult to say for everybody that it's reflective of how we thought it would work or identifying gaps. But I think what John was saying, the relationships and the connections that individuals have built with staff within the Beacon are absolutely supporting us to identify how best to support that individual, and it might be appropriate for that individual to come to the Beacon more than once or more than 5 times. So each individual case is on its own merits, and the feedback from those they do see it as a safe space to attend. Thanks, John.
Thanks very much, and it is obviously a life-saving service, so I'm delighted to see that, and of course, John, I do wish you well.
Thank you. I think next was Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener, and thanks for the report, Kirsty. And it is very good to hear how well the Beacon Centre is running. That's really good to hear. My question really is going back to some previous reports that we've seen, and we always got the impression that social work workforce numbers were a bit fragile. Now, from this report, it seems like things are better. What specifically do you think that's down to? Because it is obviously good to hear.
So there's certainly an upturn in terms of the qualified social work numbers. The wider social care workforce, there still remain significant pressures that are felt most acutely by the partnership. But in terms of qualified social work numbers, then we have made significant gains there. You'll see from the report in the section on workforce, it's been the last 3 years we focused on the 6 pillars of our workforce strategy, and Rebecca leads on that for us together with Lindsay Foreman in the partnership. And I have to say that has been a relentless programme of getting in there at a very early stage with social work students. It's been about creating a really good learning environment, because we know if students come to Angus and they have a good learning experience, then they will want to stay here, and we'll have our pick of the bunch, if you like, but we'll be able to recruit people more readily coming from university. We know that if we have people coming in, that staff, and we're fully staffed, staff who have experience are more likely to stay. So by focusing on that end of the business, then we've been able to create a wee bit more of a pipeline. What I would say though is that is a very volatile picture, and we have a close eye to our workforce data, and Rebecca and colleagues have just reported this week that we are losing some staff to other authorities who have a much higher starting salary for qualified social workers. And we understand that a bit now, so that is something we're going to have to look at. So those figures are absolutely volatile. Whilst we're in a good picture at the minute, I might sit before you in 6 months or a year and say that we are back to using agency staff. We don't want to use agency staff. It's not a good use of our funds, and it's certainly not good for the families who don't have consistency. So by really focusing on those 6 pillars of the workforce, I think we're getting some dividends. I am pretty concerned though about the overall picture and demand for social work in our neighbouring authorities and across Scotland. Thank you.
Thanks for that. There's maybe 1 or 2 points there for us to note. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. I just want to address the Bairnshouse success. It was great to be able to go along there and just see how the staff are managing with some of the most vulnerable people we have, really. I just want to know what actions are being taken to ensure that staffing can remain at the required level, because it is intensive. It's very intensive staffing there. Thank you.
Thank you. So you'll know that we are part of the Tayside Pathfinder, and we're in year 3 of the Pathfinder now for Bairnshouse. So the conversations have been about how do we make this sustainable, because it's been heavily propped up by government funding. And the answer to that at conversations at the end of last week were, we don't think we can make that sustainable without additional funding. To be perfectly honest, to staff the Bairnshouse, to make the spend around what is required for the additional third sector counselling services, the conclusion I was coming to was that's going to be incredibly difficult. However, I am now assured that there is to be some multi-year funding that comes through for Bairnshouse. It's a very early bit of information we've had, but we've had it formally that we will have some multi-year funding. So I now have more confidence than I had last week that we can actually really embed the model of the Bairnshouse, because it is so important in reducing the ongoing trauma from being involved in child protection processes. So it's feeling a bit more positive. I'm sure we'll report back here once we get the numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on that, I think that response came on Friday, the end of last week, that there would be further funding, but it doesn't specify what level that would be at or what that would look like, just that there would be further funding. Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. Given our statutory duties and our requirements to uphold the rights of children, young people and families, including older adults within law, how does our social work service manage financial pressures whilst upholding these rights? And how are new staff coming in to the social work workforce? How are they supported to, I guess, never lose sight of, rights-based practice whilst coming into a very financially challenged environment?
So I'll take the first part of the question, and then I'll come to a colleague in the partnership. And then for the bit about how we support staff, Rebecca, I'll come to you if that's okay. So I can speak primarily around children, families and justice services and how we ensure that we're upholding people's rights, I think, from understanding the question, and delivering the full range of statutory services whilst we're managing our budgets. And in our services, we've been in a fortunate position not to have frontline cuts to children and family services. And that's been really important, because at the position that we're in now, where we are fairly well staffed, we are still seeing considerable pressure in delivering the services that we have. So it's in terms of thinking about any cuts that we take, any posts that we don't fill. Fortunately for me, there's been few of those decisions, because there's been a big commitment from this council over the years to fund our frontline services, for which we hugely appreciate. But any service that we are reducing or no longer going to provide, then we go through the equalities impact assessment. We really think about what that means, not only now for the children, young people and families receiving services, but what it will cost us later on in terms of system failure. So if we fail to support a child and we fail to prevent them coming into care because we're unable to provide that service, then it costs kind of later in the line. So we consider all of that. Where we don't have as much influence or control, which is concerning, is around other services that surround children and young people. So we see greater need and increased demand around children and family social work services and justice social work services, when you think about the pressure about early release for prisoners, where there's a dearth of services elsewhere. So that's either cuts to third sector supports, it's partners retracting and saying we no longer do this piece of work. It's what is available for our children and families and communities, the support. So that's where we see the bigger impact in social work services, because we have been able to largely protect the front line. The final bit I'll say about that is we, on a national level, advocate very strongly for the need for proper resourcing for any other initiatives, policies or legislation that come, because that's the other bit of pressure. Whilst we're not cutting services, we're being expected to do more with less. And again, we need to be really strong advocates as we possibly can. We can't continue to absorb that. So I don't know if that helps in terms of the CFJ, but Councillor Speed, thank you. I'll ask John and or Jill in terms of adult social work services before we come to Rebecca, but thank you.
Thanks, Kirsty, and thank you for the question, Councillor Speed. So, yeah, I would agree with everything that Kirsty said. From an adult's context, we we're absolutely held under statutory guidance and legislation in terms of what we must do, and we maintain that regardless. Now that is definitely more challenging now than it has been, but when we look at the work that goes on across the partnership, our statutory duty to assess, to review, to adhere to not only the Social Work Scotland Act, but also the complexities associated with mental health legislation. We maintain that, and we provide assurance to not only Kirsty as Chief Social Work Officer, but also to other bodies, including the Mental Welfare Commission, who have oversight of the work that we do in the practice that we have. There's undeniably challenges around that in terms of the resource availability, but we have become much more effective, I would say, around the use of our commissioning of services across Angus, and we're in a really fortunate position where we have a really good cohort of providers who provide excellent care for individuals who require services and are assessed for those services. And whilst the report, and Kirsty's report, highlights some of the challenges linked to STS option 3, within that reporting year, over the past year, we've seen an increase in our option 3 providers, and that's been through a lot of hard work, through good market facilitation, and just ensuring that our strategic needs are aligned to our statutory requirements, as well as understanding the need within Angus. So not ignoring the challenges, and we've touched on the workforce challenges as well, particularly within the care workforce, but we do maintain what we are required to do under law, and ensure that we commission some of the lower level needs as appropriate. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, I just wanted to come in there just on the back of, I suppose, hot off the press, Councillor Speed, that Jill and I were actually in Edinburgh yesterday at the Leaders Summit for self-directed support, and that was one of the key questions and key issues nationally, is how you balance up the current financial challenges and enabling the workforce to work in exactly the way that you were highlighting. And I think from yesterday, I think we are committed to contributing to that national conversation in terms of how we balance up those conflicting demands, if you like. So it's just to assure you that this is getting focused nationally and that we're contributing to that.
And just to answer your point in terms of supporting our workforce, so I suppose there's two bits to that. The first bit is in terms of our newly qualified social workers coming in. We've already kind of spoken a wee bit about that, but they do have to go through a supported first year, and there is criteria for them to meet for them to get through that year, and that is very much based on rights and ethical decision making and a wide range of areas of practice. So that's one thing for our NQSWs. For our whole workforce, though, we've worked really hard on developing a culture and a learning culture within the department, and that was evidenced in our inspection report, where it was clear that what we provided our staff was an environment where they felt safe and they felt able to practice in a way that was creative and without fear of being in trouble for things going wrong. So what we've always kind of endeavoured to do is say, what is the right thing to do, and then work back from that. We have various forums in place at Staff Attend. We've got a practitioners forum, for instance, which is now joint with the partnership, and various things are discussed there in terms of practice development and how we put children and families and adults at the centre of all our work. And I think our whole approach to learning and a reflective approach that we have in terms of reflective discussions and self-evaluation very much focuses on what does this family need and what could we do better within the resource that we've got. So very much focused on that with our staff.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Waxman, where you've had your virtual hand up for quite a while, but come to you now.
Thanks, Convener, and I've got a couple of quick questions, if I may. Thanks for the report, Kirsty. It's very extensive and encouraging. My first question's on page 65 on the Adult Health and Social Care Partnership graphs. There's a graph which shows the referral by gender and age, and there's a section for 16 and 17-year-olds. I was just puzzled as to why that was there and not within Child and Family Services. And my other question relates to the budgetary pressures on page 75. We recently had to take a decision not to go ahead with the purchase of another house for our children, but of externally commissioned placements is quite severe. So I'm just wondering whether that decision will potentially need to be revisited in the future. Thanks.
John might want to come in on 16 and 17-year-olds in terms of adult support and protection, and then I'll pick up on care and justice before the budget question.
Thank you, Kirsty, and yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Whiteside. So in terms of adult protection, the assumption there that only pertains to individuals who are 18 or over, but for those who are not in education or under any social work legislation within children and families, we can, and sometimes it's absolutely right, to support and provide that support and protection through adult protection. And the legislation enables and allows us to do that. So in lots of ways it's really positive to note that we have individuals where perhaps if they have left universal services, haven't reached the threshold for social work involvement whilst being a child, we're still able to ensure that their needs are met, that we're able to respond to risk and concern reports within the community, and then therefore provide support and protection through the legislation and the process within adult support and protection. So hopefully that helps answer the question. Thank you.
I'll just supplement that a bit and see that we would expect to see some shift in that with the implementation of Children Care and Justice Act, because there will be more children, well, 16 and 17-year-olds will be referred to the Children's Hearing System if they're engaged in offending, so keeping them out of the prison environment, out of the court system, unless it's a very significant charge. So we will see, we'll be able to refer vulnerable 16 and 17-year-olds into the hearing system, and therefore they'll be maintained and kept and supported in children's services. However, the adult protection legislation is effective for young people aged 16 or over, and this is where the legislative landscape starts to get a wee bit tricky. So as we work on implementing the new Act, these are different pathways that we'll be working out. So we should start to see a bit of a shift in that, and more young people engaged in children's services. If I can come on to the budget and the overspend, so there is a significant overspend in terms of children's residential care. That's a national issue, and it's certainly a local issue. A bit about whether we develop our own in-house services. So I can see why I'm asked about this, because we're getting grade 5s, so we're providing very good care. However, that is not without its challenges, and the assessment in the service is that we have kind of peaked at what we are able to deliver without really changing the model significantly, and therefore enhancing our management costs in a pretty big way. Claire manages our children's houses on top of all of our other resources. We continue to grow that. We're really out developing ourselves. What we are doing though is entering into our agreements with partner providers. Peter and our procurement colleagues have a report that will come before Policy and Resources kind of imminently, I think, in a couple of weeks. And that's about our block contract agreement with a particular provider who is expanding into Angus. Well established in the market that they can stand up and open a children's house very, very quickly. You'll remember our own experience was not that. So we've had a children's house opened recently. I think some of you have been to see it, and they were able to do that in around about 6 or 7 months. I think 4 months. Peter's telling me 4 months. So to be able to have that profile, that scale across the whole country, deploy your resources and be able to stand up a good quality resource. So we are looking at a block contract agreement which will save us considerable sum of money anyway in that respect. We're also working on another provider agreement with a very very well established provider who is also opening up another small scale children's house. So in terms of being cost effective, being able to give us the profile and the scale, but also to recognise our ambition that residential care has a place, but we are using it where we don't have foster carers at the moment. So our ambition in the future would be that we no longer have to place especially young children in our small scale residential houses, that they would be in foster care, or ultimately they'd be at home with the right support. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks. Thanks, Councillor Whiteside.
Okay, thank you. And I think you had Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener. Kirsty, again, thank you very much for the report. On page 64, children with disabilities, at the bottom of that paragraph there, you mentioned that there's unidentified opportunities for SDS for children with disabilities. I wonder if you can maybe just give us a wee bit of an insight of what that might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've alluded to that in here. What we will bring forward in November when we report our annual improvement report, we'll have a supplementary report that comes on children with disabilities, because you remember last year it's an area where we know we have to take a much kind of fuller interest in. So I'll ask Peter just to come in on that, Councillor Proctor, and provide a little bit of context, but I'd also assure you that we will bring a much more detailed report forward in November. Thanks.
I guess we've already heard this afternoon the impact of our Option 3 service, which is built into the Strathmore and the development we've had over the last couple of years of the outreach service, and that's certainly been a lot of our focus over the last 2 years, is how we deliver more flexible Option 3, which is provision, and we've done that. I mean, for example, short breaks are no longer just delivered in-house within Strathmore building. They're delivered outside in the community in a range of different ways. What we recognise, though, is that we need to now turn our focus onto options 1, 2 and option 4. Option 4 is a combination of self-direct support and services as well. So that will be what we'll be looking to kind of take to the November committee in terms of what that improvement and development plan might look like, and how we are going to seek to achieve those actions. Claire is already working alongside colleagues within the partnership in terms of some of the developments that the partnership have had over the last couple of years. There's a dedicated self-direct support planning officer who also contributes to our development. And we'll be utilising and working with Stacey in terms of how we deliver an improvement plan and look to grow, in particular, option 1 and 2, but also with a particular a focus on our early support and preventative approaches. And that's the kind of key area that we want to step into over the course of the next 12 months.
Okay, thank you. Has anyone got any further questions or comments? Okay, thank you. I just want to kind of revisit where we started to echo and send on our thanks to all the workforce as well that are working incredibly hard. And I think the report outlines very clearly the circumstances that they're working in and also what they've achieved within that as well. So please do take that back. Our role in this one is to note and endorse the contents of the annual report. So is that agreed? Agreed. I'm also aware it's quite warm in here. We've been going for quite a long time. However, the next report to the previous one. So I wondered if we would take a 10-minute break if people want to do that to get some fresh air. If that's okay. So the next item on the agenda, item 11, is the Angus Adoption Agency annual report, and Kirsty Lee is going to present this one as well.
Thank you. I'll forgo my beautifully written introduction, folks, because of the interest of time, and I want to give time to Lindsay Lang, the service manager, for any questions you have. So the highlights of what I'd say is we know that this service operates in a particularly challenging national and local context. But there are significant achievements within the report. It's a very positive report. Particularly pleased to see we have a net increase of 6 new fostering households this year. The growth in kinship care, and kinship care is now a real strength, an area of practice for us, with 43% of our children living in family-based care with extended families, with some of these arrangements very heavily supported because that is the right place for them to be. There are improvements in permanence planning that you'll note, but we are very honest within the report and in the context of the Chief Social Work Officer report about the challenges. So whilst there are 17 children approved for permanence, they are waiting for their permanent arrangements, and in many instances we continue to rely on temporary and external resources. You'll see the significant shortage of adopters and the position that that leaves our children in, what that means for them. In the same way that I thank our foster carers, kind of every year their support comes forward. It's difficult to make it any more authentic than we can, but you know, I do try to spend some time with our foster carers, and there's nothing like an experience of speaking to our carers, and as we did recently at the Fun Day, and one of our carers described himself as not being particularly great, and I thought, oh, help, we best dig into this. But what they're describing is being asked to look after children, bring their whole self, provide love and care, and then feeling very difficult and unable to move some children on and provide an adoption and fostering, which is another pressure on the system. But that just shows the absolute commitment of the whole family for our children. And we see that in our inspection results when we see that children are loved, belonging, included right across the board. That's because our carers and our kinship carers are bringing their whole selves into that, and I really do genuinely thank them, because it is very, very challenging, very difficult, but our children have on the whole excellent care experiences. So thank you to our carers. We'll just ask that you note the report, and we'll direct any questions towards Lindsay, who I know enjoys coming here very much to champion her service, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kirsty. Have we got any questions? Councillor Nicol?
Thank you, Convener, and thank you, Kirsty, for the report. It's a really important piece of work. My question is on the information on the fostering panel on page 95. So first of all, I must say approving 7 new fostering households and exceeding the national average is a great achievement in this tough climate. So my question is, looking ahead, what were the main drivers behind the success, and how can we keep that momentum going, and how can we build on that? Thanks.
For your comments. I think it's really difficult because it's multifactorial, but I think the key to our success is we'll have a consistent focus on marketing and recruitment. We don't just do that once a year. We meet constantly. Every month we meet. We have a representative from our comms team, Vanessa Hannigan, who's really good at keeping us focused. We try to link in with other local authorities to see what they're doing, but we focused on the campaigns and what we can do that's different. But we also keep a consistent sort of drip effect through. Work really hard to engage with people. At the moment, we have created banners we're going to put on all the play parks in Angus, because we'll have really good real estate in Angus as well. So we're hoping to use that and to bring a bit of colour and a bit of just to highlight our needs and our services. We also really ensure that people have a positive experience with us from the point that they phone up. We'll work really hard. So the point where you phone in, we are on it. We will be back in touch with you within the same day, within 24 hours, certainly if it's 5 o'clock someone phones, and we'll be really positive about what they can provide, and if they can't, they'll be really transparent about, we don't think we should go down this journey. And so when they become involved and come to prep training and meet workers, that we try to just keep bringing in that relationship focus and make sure people have a really, because we're aware that some people are maybe contacting 3 or 4 different agencies, and we've had quite a number of carers who have said, based on how welcoming your staff were, that's why we've come with Angus. So we really work on that when we meet people out in the community, that we try to focus on being really positive about it. But also our carers are probably the greatest asset, and they go out and talk really highly about working with Angus. So we're really lucky in that. We have had carers who were involved with us through an adoption with another agency who've come back and said we'd like to go Angus because of their experience of working with that child's worker. So it's really nice to hear that Angus staff are getting it right.
Yeah, a year ago as well, we took a paper to committee to revise our fostering criteria. So 12 months on, I think it's our intention to do an audit of that and try and see what if any, impact that's had in our recruitment processes, and see what learning we can take away from that.
Thank you, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, and thanks very much. I mean, I know a number of foster carers myself, and I know how they bring themselves to the role. It's really important. And I'm also really pleased to see the increased level of kinship care. I think that's really important. And we also need to remember that quite often families already have their own lives and those challenges to be dealing with, and then they have that added caring role as well. And I just wonder to what extent financial support is applied across that cohort. It might be that not everyone requires financial support, but I do know it could be a significant barrier when times are tough for most people these days, to be honest. So it would be good to get a sense of that. Thanks, Lindsay.
Factors in kinship care, and it's the one I find really difficult to defend, the policies and the legislation around it. But if you're an eligible kinship care, so if the young person you looked after is looked after at the time that we place them with you, you're eligible for a kinship allowance payment, a full one. And the same if the child's ever been looked after and you get a residence order for that child, you're entitled to a payment. Other carers who might be informally looking after children of their children or whoever are entitled to support, but not that blanket. You'll get the Scottish Recommended Allowance. So if those carers get in touch with us, and if there's a risk that someone might become accommodated because of their hardship, we would do an assessment and we might look at budgeting, look at other supports we can put in, and might suggest this amount a week. So we don't have anyone that we've given grants to people before for a washing machine, but we haven't got anyone who's having a lesser amount per week. But we're having more and more referrals for people that don't meet our main criteria. So I think that will come about. And when staff are going out, they're fine, because they're saying these are people in exactly the same circumstances as the other people we pay. So it's been really difficult to defend that and the difference between that and the difference about how long we'll pay them for compared to foster care. So it's something we're working on and hope to develop some sort of paper so it's really transparent for anyone who wants the information.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thank you. So I kind of looked back another year from like this reporting period. So kind of go back to kind of pre-pandemic. And there is quite a difference. So I think previously it was quite governance focused, whereas this appears much more operational. But also looking from what I take probably is true, what's highlighted within the social work report is just, I guess, a much more fragile kind of landscape. So in some respects there is pleasing numbers in terms of people coming through to support, but perhaps not as kind of stable, as secure as it was previously. And I just wondered if is there anything else that we could be doing? I think it'll be helpful to have that report come back with regards to the policy changes. But yeah, I mean, I think some of the figures are kind of almost double what they were kind of 2019 pre-pandemic. So yeah, is there any thoughts around that?
And I think you've identified that, there is nationally significant challenges in terms of care placements. In fact, Kirsty and her colleagues earlier on in the summer declared an emergency in terms of care. So undoubtedly, there are significant issues currently. I've been around far too long, and it's probably one of the most challenging working within social work. Lindsay and Claire are very active in those national conversations. Our Chief Executive was down at a round table just on the 7th of August there, ministerial round table, to look to how we address these issues in the short and longer term. And there's aspects from that I think that we will absolutely take part in those national conversations in terms of, for example, there's a suggestion that we look at how we lift or create flexibility in the 3 children cap within foster placements in some instances. So we'll take part in that discussion and look as to how we can utilise that on a local basis if necessary. But these are the kind of issues and discussions that we're very actively involved in, as well as at the same time continuing to work on our partnerships with external fostering agencies, because I think that's been a success and a challenge in terms of success in terms of getting placements, but also in terms of budgetary increase in terms of payment for external placements. But it's a really important factor, and that's down to the relationships that Lindsay and her colleagues are building with the fostering agencies. And we've seen that, as Kirsty alluded to, with our residential providers as well, and how we've developed locally in Angus. And it's the core of social work practice in terms of that relationship-based practice, and that's very important in terms of how we foster, no pun intended, foster those relationships with other providers as well. So yeah, it's a constant push to try and look at how we contribute both nationally and
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions that people had. Have anyone got any comments? Councillor Speed?
Yeah, just a very quick one. Just to say that I think that your marketing, your social media posting and things, I think that's really effective. I've seen a few families that I know kind of pop up to tell their story, and you just know that they've got an absolute heart of gold. What they're doing is, life-changing, and for them telling them stories of how successful their fostering and adoption has been, I think is just really encouraging. So hopefully that's something that can be maintained, and people hopefully can have an opportunity to speak to those that are already kind of within the system supporting our young people. That would be good to see as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad someone else mentioned that as well, because I was going to mention it, but you don't know sometimes if it's just because you're more conscious of it as well, that you're seeing it more. But I think the visibility of the community, that consistency you mentioned, is really important and raises the profile of it. So yeah, it would be good. Has anyone else got any comments you want to add? Okay, well, so thank you for coming along, and again, just to thank you for most of all of the carers that participate on that, and that I agree with Kirsty's comment, and that giving thanks feels quite challenging to do in this setting, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware, and I think everyone would echo that thank you for everyone that contributes to that and the staff that support them. Thank you. So our job is to agree the recommendations, which are to endorse the annual report and note that it will be published on the council website as well. Is that agreed? Agreed. So I think maybe if we just take 10 minutes just now for a quick rest before we come back for the rest of the items. Thank you. Is that agreed? Agreed. Yeah. Okay, welcome back everyone. So the next item on the agenda is the Angus Education Report 25-26 and an update on the Angus Education Plan 22 to 20. Neil Loudon is going to present this report.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. The Angus Education Report for 25-26 and the update of the Angus Education Plan 22-27. This is the final year of the plan in its current version, and our plan continues to be centred around delivering excellence and equity for all our children and young people across the service. In addition to the high-level plan, we have a series of service-level plans, all with associated targets and action plans. Our schools and ELC settings also have their own school improvement or establishment improvement plans. Across Angus Cares, you will see that we continue to focus on the promise, on equally safe. We continue to have a key focus on improving attendance for our children and young people, as well as pursuing 5 qualifications at level 3. Angus Learns is about our key priorities and focusing on the curriculum improvement cycle and pending changes. And Angus Improves for me is about doing what it says on the tin, continuing relentlessly to improve outcomes for our children and young people right from when they enter our early learning childcare centres right through to when they exit at the senior phase into that positive destination. Appendix 3 provides details of our performance in relation to the Scottish Attainment Challenge, and again I hope Appendix 4 provides a helpful glossary of terms. Convener, the team are here to take any questions that members may have.
Thank you. Got any questions? Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Convener. Lots in here, and I just want to ask one quick question, really, and it's really around the numeracy work in the plan. Looking at page 119, around the broad general education, and I get a lot of feedback from people around how maybe unprepared young people are for real life after school or college even, around financial education and budgeting and how to open a bank account and operate that and stay in the black. So I just wondered how practical applications are integrated into curriculum around helping to address practical living skills. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bell. I think I completely agree. Financial education, I think from the nucleus of Curriculum for Excellence way back in 2000 and 2002, it's very different. We operate in a very different society now. And I think more recently, financial education begins at the very early level. When we're preparing young people, preparing our children through Curriculum for Excellence. And what pleases me about financial education is that it's now developed what I would call progressively throughout the journey of a young person in school, early level, first level, second level, all from understanding coins, notes, but as you hit the senior phase now, it's much more robust. So where I would say it's embedded within numeracy and mathematics across the wider curriculum, by the senior phase, our learners are now exploring more advanced financial concepts, as you say, including budgeting, saving, the impact of borrowing, debt, and how you should future-proof your financial planning. And that then goes across numeracy, across all the levels. And I do think that's been an important development in Curriculum for Excellence in recent times to prepare our young people for a very different future now in 2026 as they had, as the young people would have had at the very beginning of CFE.
Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I know I'm old school, but I think the best thing in the curriculum for financial awareness used to be the O grade arithmetic, where you did how rates were calculated and income tax worked and stuff like that. That was very useful, I think. I still remember a lot of that. That's not my question. I guess one of the things we're noting is attendance levels are an issue, clearly. Is that a sort of Scotland-wide issue, and is that just one of the impacts of post-COVID? Because it is a bit of a concern that the numbers there look quite low.
I think what pleases is that we have had a focus on attendance, and for the first time in a number of years our secondary school attendance has just tipped above the national average, which is a real positive. It's something we've not been able to say before. Now, on the flip side of that, you could say it's not statistically significant because it's 0.2% almost, but we're aspirationally trying to get young people in more and more, and even the commitment of introducing more engagement officers into our schools to support children and young people attending and engaging is important. And our primary schools are low above 90%. We still want to focus on that. And I guess it comes back to early intervention, and we're talking a non-statutory part of the service, how we encourage uptake in ELC and how we build in those good habits of value in our schools, value in education, and working with our parents and families in sometimes really challenging circumstances to support the family as best we can. But the pursuit of almost every child attending school as much as they possibly can remains ultimately the aspiration for the Directorate.
Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. It's kind of following on from that, Neil, really. There is a focus on increasing attendance and really welcome that. But we still have a lot of part-time timetables. And that's a bit of a concern for me because I'm not sure how we know what the young people are doing out with that. It says that they're kind of almost hoping that they're going to be involved with other agencies' activities or supports. How do we know that? Because we really don't want them just roaming the streets, because that's not good for them. It's not good for their learning, certainly. So I would like your just talk to me about it.
I think when you look across the plan 22 to 27, I think what is reassuring is that the number of part-time timetables year on year is decreasing. But appreciate that when you're still looking at 3% and higher in secondary, and I'm on page 110 as Councillor Devine's pointing out, it is still important that those small numbers are catered for in the most appropriate way for them on the adapted timetables or the part-time timetables as that may be. So in terms of how we are supporting that and with the inclusion agenda, I'll maybe just bring in Audrey to say a bit on that.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. I think our part-time timetables or adapted timetables are always very time limited, or should be, and they should be agreed with the family and the young person, and there should be a phased approach to that. So it might be a young person who's out of school or experiencing anxiety, and it takes time to get them back in and build up their attendance, or those who are experiencing, not in school for other reasons. So it's very bespoke to the individuals, but it also should be regularly reviewed and monitored and part of the child's planning process. There shouldn't be a case where we don't know what young people or children are doing when they're not in school, and that package of support to help enable them to get back into school when they are able to do that. So, and our guidance has been updated in line with the national guidance so that all schools are following the same in relation to part-time timetables. Sorry, frog in my throat now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got any further questions? Councillor Speed.
Yeah, just of a similar kind of, in a similar vein to Councillor Devine, do have concerns around those who are not, in school. But certainly my experiences and the feedback that I've had from parent carers has been quite the opposite to kind of, roaming about out on the streets. It has been they're actually stuck, secluded in their bedroom, full of anxiety, unable to leave the house often. And so I just wondered where things were at with CAMHS, because I guess they are a key partner in the work of education and in the work of supporting children and families who have either mental health or are waiting for an assessment for neurodivergence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Speed. I can't speak for NHS Tayside, obviously, but I am aware of and involved in the works, particularly in relation to the neurodevelopmental pathway. So there's meeting next week, in fact, and then 6 weekly meetings planned. So things are moving ahead, at pace a bit. I think it's important, though, to note that CAMS is an assessment process. So in terms of ongoing support in schools, we have the mental health officers who are related to CAMS. We also have our own educational psychology service who developed excellent guidance actually on emotionally based school avoidance that's gone out to school. So that's to help our schools to understand those kinds of experiences and the kind of isolation that children and young people can be experiencing and what they can do to help support that transition back into school. So there is work ongoing with CAMS and they are a partner, but I think it's looking at what that multi-agency approach is going to be, because the pathway for neurodevelopmental issues is not going to be through CAMS, although for mental health issues it still is, and they still meet their targets for children that are referred to CAMS on the mental health pathway.
Thank you. Are there any comments? Okay, that's great. So the recommendations are to note, to consider, comment, to approve, to note and request. And the final one is to request that presents an evaluation report on the progress with the Angus Education Plan in September 2027. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. The next item is Angus Schools for the Future, the Continuum of Provision update, and Neil Loudon is going to introduce this report.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. Agenda item 13 provides members with an update on our approaches and perhaps more importantly some options that are committed to bringing back to committee to enhance our continuum of provision. Convener, I am proposing that the Director undertake a broader engagement seeking views on the identified options listed in 5.3, and all of these options are explained in further detail in Appendix 1. This is a wider engagement to gather the views of all stakeholders and includes a questionnaire, it includes public meetings, it includes focus groups with children and young people, and finally it's then proposed that the outcome of the engagement exercise is brought to Family, Education and Justice Committee in January.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions? Councillor Speed.
Thank you for bringing this report, and probably a double thanks today for bringing it as you committed to this meeting. I do really appreciate that, because I know that I did push that point in urgency the last time we had this agenda item. My question's two parts. One is just around the kind of consultation or engagement with the public, and if there will be kind of child-friendly versions and works with pupils to gain their feedback on how they feel. And the second part, I do note that within the report it does state that a consideration will be given to other buildings, not just within education stock, but within Angus. And I just wondered if has ever been a consideration that's kind of materialised any further than just a thought or a discussion, and if that is something that can be given quite a bit of consideration, because I do think that it possibly ticks a number of boxes in terms of the environment, the provision within it, possibly the location. It certainly should be a serious contender for consideration.
I'm maybe just coming on the first, in fact on the second part, and then on the consultation. I'll maybe bring colleagues in on the consultation element of it. In terms of, I think we would all agree that Freecombe Community Hub is a tremendous asset to Angus in terms of the facilities that it has. So council officers are in contact with relevant parties about the future of Freecombe Community Hub, and I would reassure members that this includes officers from Education and Lifelong Learning also, because that's part of the consultation process, looking at vacant buildings. In terms of consultation and engagement, we will rely locally on our head teachers and senior leaders in schools to engage, because they know children and young people best, although what we have committed to do centrally is provide some resource that will have focus groups of young people to gather and generate views that are as important as any other views, perhaps even more important than the views of others about what they feel we could do better to support them, to help them learn better. But I'm happy for Audrey or Beth to come in on the back of that in terms of that consultation.
Yeah, I would just say, although the survey's going out, obviously there'll be focus groups with children and young people, and as Neil says, we'll work with school staff to use communication methods that are best suited to some of the children and young people that require that. So we'll endeavour to do our best to gather views widely as we can.
Thanks very much, Convener. Yeah, just going on to what Councillor Speed said, I agree with Darren what she said, and I just hope that when we go to the consultation again, that we can give information to let people who consultees, if you wish, know that, for example, children with special needs can enhance the school and maybe negate some of the comments that we got the last time. But as I say, some of these kids will actually enhance the school and ensure its longevity.
Councillor Proctor, and the next one was Councillor Bell.
Thank you. It's all tied in with the last few comments, because the paper under 5.3 says within these options there are no proposal to establish a new special school within Angus, and there's considering where we could potentially use other vacant buildings across Angus. So that's potentially around a base or a unit or something that's a smaller scale but could well be a standalone facility to support people. So it's just about matching those two statements up for clarity. Thanks.
I'm happy for Audrey to come in just on the back of me. I think, Councillor Bell, any continuing provision, so we have a high quality continuing provision at Panbride Pupils Sports Centre, but Panbride does not have a seed code, so it's not operating as a school. Any continuing provision in Angus will not have a standalone seed code the way Kings Park, that I've named in the paper, has a seed code. This would be about a shared placement to enhance the continuum of provision that we have for a young person. So that's the distinctive difference from me. When we're looking at further analysis of our school estate data, which I've made option E, if you like, in Appendix 1, that would perhaps be about using a current seed-coded school where there's already a seed code in, and I've deliberately not named schools this time the way that they were named last year in the paper, because that would perhaps be establishing, and I don't want to get in front of a consultation, but perhaps about a new stage in the school rather than a special school itself. So there would be no seed codes attached to any of the vacant buildings, and it would be a similar model to what we already operate in Panbride, just at an enhanced level. But Audrey might want to come on that.
Just for clarity, it was for when you go out to consultation, having that clarity of language.
Okay,
so that people understand there, because I think there is that paper's for us, I guess, but it's also in the public domain. It's just so that people are clear what all of that is meaning.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair to legal colleagues, and I know Tina's here, I think the sentence that's really important for me is the one you've said, which is, within these options there is no proposal to establish a new special school within Angus. Yeah.
If I can just come in there. So, I mean, we do have a special school and it's Kings Park in Dundee, and some of us that have been around long enough will know that Angus actually contributed financially to the new builds as well, so that's what gives us designated places, which we pay for, but designated places at Kings Park. Any new development, as Neil said, would be an extension to our continuum of provision. So Panbride is extended support for pupils, but for a particular age group and for particular needs there. So we need more options within our continuum of provision, which includes their schools, but it may also include something freestanding that wouldn't be a school, but would be an extended support, if you like, and maybe shared care with schools, but it is to give us more options for children so that we can meet their needs locally without having to send them out with beyond Kings Park, which is currently the case. Thank you.
And Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. My question's not about the consultation, actually. It's just something that popped up at 4.3, and it's the increase of the percentage of children who have recorded ASN. But it's interesting to me, and I keep wondering about why this is, that there's so many more in secondary than in primary, and I just wonder why that might be.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. There's a number of reasons why that might be. I think possible under-reporting in our primary schools, and that's come up before, but also secondary school reporting of additional support needs has increased in line with the virtual comparators nationally. So I think there's variation across sectors, but I think it's important to note that there are major inconsistencies in the recording of additional support needs across Scotland, and that was highlighted in the audit report in February of last year as well, and also in the most recent ASL review carried out by Janie McManus, who's an advisor to the Scottish Government just in March of this year. So given the issue around that, the inconsistencies across Scotland and across sectors, the Scottish Government and local authority leads for additional support needs, including myself, are involved in the National ASN Data Improvement Programme currently, and that's to try and improve greater understanding of the recording of additional support needs through the development of national guidance. So we'll have input into that. And I guess the aim is for ASN data to become more meaningful and comparable across Scotland, so that it will help improve national planning as well as local planning. So that's around resource allocation, workforce planning, professional development for staff, so that we can meet the needs of the children and young people that are in front of us, and so ultimately better outcomes for children and young people regardless of where they live. So it shouldn't be a postcode lottery, and it kind of seems that way at the moment. So there's actually a meeting in Edinburgh tomorrow that will be attending to progress this work, and it will feed back. It's tied into also reviewing staged intervention nationally, trying to come up with an agreed model across Scotland. So the meetings will be taking that work forward, and then there will be a second ASN data summit in early next year when we'll be sharing that work publicly. But I'm more than happy to keep the committee updated on it meantime.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions. If anyone else, has anyone got any comments to add? Oh, sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was just to add that when the unfortunate news broke with regards to the Freak Hub, and it became quite apparent that, you know, they were kind of having to cease operation, and it just, there was no going back. I did reach out to the director, just with that thought around, you know, such a valuable asset, and if it could be a consideration. So it is really encouraging to hear that Education have been round the table during those discussions with regards to its future. So thanks for that update.
Thank you. Has anyone else got any questions? Comments? Sorry for losing track of where we are. Is that all? Okay. Thank you. So our ask is to note the progress, note the intention to undertake broad engagement, to seek the views on identified options, and request the outcome of this engagement exercise is reported to Family Education and Justice Committee in January 2027. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. And the next, and I think last item on the agenda for today is the Angus School for the Future Moneyfeith Learning Campus, and this is an update that we agreed to bring back to this committee on the use of spaces at Moneyfeith Learning Campus, and Neil Loudon is going to introduce this report.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. Finally, as you said, agenda item 14 provides members with an update on the first year of operation at Moneyfeith Learning Campus, and asks members to note the progress updates within the report following the completion of phase 1 of the project. It also summarises progress in relation to the use of the new building, community access to facilities, and the planned availability of the external pitches, also from October 2026. The report also highlights the continued work being undertaken to maximise the use of the campus for the learners, for families, and for the wider community. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yep, Councillor Speed.
Yeah, I just had a wee question with regards to the low numbers or low percentage of a couple of the spaces. there's maybe a good reason for that. I'm sure there is, but yeah, just a wee explanation as to that, because obviously if you didn't know, looking at it would, yeah, perhaps just raise questions. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Speedy. You're referring to the bookable spaces in 5.4.
Yeah, thanks.
We have tried to do promotional videos. I'll just do a plug now. All of these spaces are available. If anyone wants to book the spaces, please book them. But we have been trying to do promotional videos, etc., to promote. Now, historically, I did query some of them. For example, the gymnasium's a small gymnasium, so it tends to be the games hall as people as a preference for people as opposed. But the reality is, we do have these spaces. They are available. They are bookable. But at the moment, we do not have a significant number of bookers. So that was the reason for promotional videos, etc., to promote the new campus and to promote what is available for the wider community.
Yeah, hopefully people realising there's a greater uptake, because yeah, that would be good to see maximum benefit.
It might be worth noting as well, just to add that over the summer period there was continued work going on over the campus to do the outdoor pitches and things, so the spaces weren't accessible over the summer, but in the future those are places that could be used. Councillor Duff, did you have a hand up?
It was really just a follow, and I'm conscious that Councillor Whiteside's got her hand up, but it was really just a follow-up to Councillor Speed's question. I think it has been suggested that the booking system is a bit clunky. Now, I know when Angus Alive was set up, they had the old council booking system, which was extremely clunky, and it took them several years to get a modern booking system, which I believe is now functioning and works quite well. The old council system used to be very clunky, and I just wonder, is that the system that's being used in the schools? And maybe there might be better options that might make it more easier for people to book spaces, book rooms.
Through you, Convener, I'm happy to take that. So we use an online form which is similar to the ones that people use for doing their green waste permits, for example. It's probably not the most intuitive process in the world, but that's partly led by the system that we've got. But I can certainly take it back to colleagues within the governance side of the House where I am now to see what further improvements we can make. Tied to that is actually our charging matrix that we have, which makes it very complicated to have an online system. And there is a bit of work still needed to do to try and streamline that a bit and make it a bit more user-friendly as well. So I think anything we can do to support that. Probably just for some assurance as well on the earlier point raised by Councillor Speed, I've asked my Vibrant Communities teams, or reminded them that these facilities are there and free for council use to use for events as well. So if you do happen to see the video online, please feel free to share it. We would like to increase the uptake in the facilities are great in there. We've made use of the conference room that we've used. It's got a big whiteboard wall that you can write on. So we maybe need to sell that bit a bit more. But yeah, I'm happy to have a look at the process.
Thank you. Councillor Whiteside.
Convener, I note that the use of the swimming pool is very popular, but this is obviously by private companies and swimming clubs. Now, we previously had a commitment that discussions would be ongoing to try and establish a way of letting the public get access at some time to this pool. So I'm just wondering if there has been any progress with those discussions.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Whiteside, and I do remember the commitment that we made for the discussion. In fairness, Andy Garnett, who's our active schools manager, attended the aquatics meeting, I think I'm going to get that correct, that brings the clubs together, and directly linked in with one of the clubs. There are difficulties around free swims for the clubs under their insurance. So, for example, under the governance of the Scottish Swimming, it was meaning that anyone under their care, whether they were in for a free swim or not, had to be a member of their club. So it was becoming difficult for them and tricky to facilitate that for people walking in, signing up, asking for details, etc. So there were significant barriers around that. I've engaged with Angus Alive more recently, and although the campus was effectively closed for snagging works in the summer, we're even potentially looking at using elements of the summer of sport money and how we could potentially use that next year for a small test change, even over the summer period, to perhaps open it up more locally. So I've engaged with Angus Alive on that. And I appreciate Councillor White says it's maybe not the answer you're looking for in terms of that, but I wanted you to know that I did commit to discussions and I did ask officers to do that. But there were some barriers in place, but that doesn't mean that Andy Garnett and his team will not continue to liaise with the aquatics clubs, and particularly one club, to see if we can overcome some of those barriers. But the insurance around the membership seemed to be the main barrier, I believe.
Just follow up on that, if that's okay. I just feel that with one private swimming lesson company obviously being able to make profitable use of it for, I think the last time I saw it was a whole day and a half at the weekend, it seems unlikely that somebody like Angus Alive couldn't hire out some of the hours for public use and similarly break even at least.
And I suppose, Councillor Whiteside, I don't feel it's within my gift within education to facilitate that in terms of Angus Alive, and all I would commit to is to continue the discussions that I'm having in terms of Angus Alive with that. But yeah, in terms of education, I don't think I would want to commit as the Director of Education to say, yeah, the Education Directorate will be able to open that on a Sunday for an hour's free swim. I just don't feel that's within my gift.
Thank you. Was there a further question? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I'm going to be cheeky. If you're looking at a test of change for next summer, would it be possible to do it at Easter as well?
I wouldn't want to commit to that, Councillor Bell, only because in terms of the Summer of Sports monies and how we do that, it would be Angus Alive. I don't think there's the same financial flexibility to look at Easter time in terms of that. And I'm just thinking in terms of the structure of the school, etc. But Beth, have you got anything that you could add on that in terms of how that would look?
I think we would need to go away and look at the detail. But one thing that I was thinking about that is just about exam preparation as well, and the fact that the school building could potentially be in use if we do have any summer stuff going on as well. We may at Easter sort of preparation time going on too. I think it's certainly something we could look at. I wouldn't want to commit at this point.
Yeah, I just wondered if there's maybe an opportunity under a holiday food and fun type activity or funding that could be flexed in that way.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions? Any comments? Okay, so that's the last item, and that one was just to note. Is that agreed? Agreed, thank you. And I think that concludes everything for the agenda today, so thank you everybody. Ewan, Claire, can